Recording in progress.
Welcome to the Bravo Rundown and special Bravo Rundown of the Bravo Book Club, where we are talking about Carl Radke's book, Cake Eater. This is my fabulous co-host, Sonia Weber, Bravo, Bravo, Books and Bravo, and just booking around. And I'm Real Melz of Bravo. Hi. Also known as Genevieve Melzer. That's my real name. And okay, we're going to jump in because this is kind of the perfect time for us to be discussing his book, because this is a real full circle moment for Carl this week, the opening of Soft Bar on the show Summer House. And it's crazy because we've really seen Carl basically change his entire life, and not a lot of people on Bravo have done that.
No, I think he's probably one of the first. I don't know that we've seen anyone else. They leave the show.
Yeah.
Jax is gone, and I don't know that he's doing amazing either. He moved out of his neighbor townhouse with shorts. But that's actually a great point. He really is. And watching his story unfold it's actually amazing to see.
Right? And okay, so we have to get into some of the tea, because you and I were watching Watch What Happens Live this week, and Lindsay was on, and one of the poll questions was, I wrote it down because I wanted to make sure I had it right, was Lindsay justified in giving Sharon the cold shoulder? We're talking about Carl's mom, Sharon. And I think we fall on different sides of the coin.
Yes.
And then I also did some polls, so I wanted to tell you what the polls said.
Oh, yeah.
And so I did one poll on YouTube. The YouTube poll said, yes, she was justified. 47.
Lindsay was?
Yeah, 47%.
Really?
So almost half. Then no, 33%. And then I can see both sides was 20%.
Okay.
Then over on TikTok, because I didn't do it on Instagram, over on TikTok, was Lindsay justified? Yes, 58%. No, 42%.
Wait, this is crazy. This is like going back to my statistics classes in psych and social work where we did research studies. Because on mine, I didn't do polls. It was more anecdotal, and it was comments. And of course, my TikToks and stuff leaned in with, this might be the unpopular opinion, but I side with Sharon Radke, and everybody agreed with me. So my polls are different than yours.
Well, and
that's interesting.
I know. I also made a video about it too, and I was like, some people might think that she was giving her the energy she deserved, and I was like, that's what I think. I didn't say that in the video, but I was like, some are saying this. And then, a lot of people were like, yeah, Lindsay, she should have done that.
We'd be great debaters and defense attorneys, because our comments all agreed with our side of things.
Yes, I mean, because, okay, my thought was, and somebody brought this up in the comments, was, remember Sharon was like talking about Lindsay at the bridal shower, and you have to remember that Sharon and her husband Lou were like big, like, they were being soundboards for Carl that he didn't want to marry Lindsay, but like Lindsay didn't even know that. And they were kind of like, remember the husband was like, Lou, he said, I don't think you should do this. And so that was obviously what Sharon also thought. It was just easier to have
we
him
thought
say
that.
it.
I mean, the audience thought that he shouldn't get married. Okay, here's how I see it.
Okay.
So Lindsay's mom has not been around. She has her aunt, and I think her stepdad, but we've seen more about her aunt has been a maternal figure in her life. But still, it didn't seem she
her
was
stepmom. Sorry.
Did I say stepdad?
Yeah,
okay, stepmom. Okay. Yes. Even her stepmom, we met later in
life.
We met the aunt early on, but she's never really had that maternal figure. So it seems that Sharon had been in Lindsay's life before they were dating. Like, Sharon's always been around. We've seen her on the show. And I would imagine they had built a relationship.
Yeah.
So for Lindsay, she even says this in a clip in the preview for In the City, I keep choosing people that abandon me. And I would imagine her anger and hurt is also the fact that here was a motherly figure in her life that was going to be her mother-in-law. And then when you watch those things, whereas from Sharon's perspective, at the end of the day, Carl is her son, and she doesn't want him to make a mistake.
Yeah.
You may be another person in my child's life, and I'm going to support you, but when I see that you were not going to work well together, I'm going to tell my son that.
Yeah.
So they both are valid. And at the end of the day, Sharon probably felt like, look, I'm the older one. And I actually think it was her place to send that text.
Yeah.
I think had she just fully cut ties with Lindsay, didn't acknowledge the breakup when she played a role in Lindsay's life. She knows Lindsay doesn't have a mother figure involved. I thought it was good that she said that. Now, the way Lindsay responded to it is also kind of a natural consequence from what not necessarily a consequence, but just a natural result of how she feels she's been treated. But how many years has it been? You're on camera. Can you just let it go? Or do you need to do this for camera time? I did wonder that component. Is there a little bit of camera time in there too? Like the whole thing with Carl and here's a teddy bear because you like hugs and you want enough. That's like her only storyline this season is how can I do little obnoxious jabs to Carl?
I think that she is still, remember, it was kind of two different narratives when the breakup happened. It was Carl's narrative that it was like, this was like a long time coming and it needed to happen. But for her, she used the word blindsided. Yeah. So I think for her, it is still fresh, or, fresher than maybe for us. We're like, it's been 2 years. You guys seem to be fine on the show. Like you're laughing about giving him his mail. But I think that, probably some of it's like play it up for the show. The producers probably in her ear right before this scene, remember all the stuff he did to you? Remember this? Remember he embarrassed you? Remember you got engaged on the beach? You were wearing shoulder pads on the beach. And and then remember everyone sided with him for a little bit, so I bet they know exactly what to do to like prod Lindsay into like creating. Activate her and create a moment. I mean, that was definitely, there was 2 moments in the episode with the teddy bear and with Sharon that were memorable and people were talking about.
And also, I bet it's a delayed grief for Lindsay because she broke up with Carl and immediately got with, what was that dude? His name? Turner. Got with Turner, got pregnant, on a high, in a relationship, like has a baby, all excited. And now the baby's here. Turner's gone. The postpartum emotions. And maybe that grief she never really experienced the grief of the loss of just what she really thought she was going to settle down and Sharon was going to be his mother, all of that. Yeah.
No, you know what? That's a really good point you have because probably, grief is different for everyone and it's not linear, right? And even of a grief of a relationship. And you're right. Like maybe she didn't really have that moment of grief or anger about that relationship because she was just moving on and happy and then happy with her new life. So now you're right. Like now it's kind of more like, gosh, this guy, he did this to me again, like on TV nonetheless. At least,
that's a big part.
At least Turner, we don't know what he did because we didn't see it, but we know what Carl did,
I think that's a big part, the fact that he did it on camera. And I also thought with Lindsay, like she told him, no, brick and mortar don't work. I went down this lane. Now here she is at the opening of it's kind of like a gut punch. Like, I guess I have to go film where everyone's loving on him and he's doing so great. And I told him not to do it. Like, it takes a lot of guts to walk in there, right?
Agreed. Like, I don't know if I would want to do that. I'd be like, no, I don't think I'll go to that scene. No, thanks.
But the irony that was kind of the segue into the In the City show, but Carl's not on the show. And talk about blindsided. He's like, Andrea, I didn't know you were going to be here. So producers set up the In the City characters to go to an event that he is hosting for a show he's not a part of.
Right, I know. So we got to meet some of the new players, the new characters, and I was like, oh, they're really setting this up. Luke was there, but Luke's not on In the City, which I think it's because he knew he wanted to run for office. I'm not sure. Maybe, did he? Would he know that?
That's weird because he is friends with Lindsay, and Lindsay will occasionally post photos of him on our social media. So I know you mentioned that earlier today, and I'm like, that is such a good point. Why? I guess he doesn't. He can't film a show there also because he has to prove he lives in Minnesota or wherever he's running for office. Yeah. Like, that's not good optics if he's living in New York City and filming there.
Can't you not be on TV because you have to have just as much screen time as the other people that are running? Do you remember when that Law and Order guy, he was on Law and Order and he decided to run for something and they had to edit him out of the show because you can't be seen more than the other people that you're running against.
Is that?
I swear, I remember something about that. Maybe that's congressional or gut. I don't know.
I was going to say, because Married to Medicine, one of those ladies is running, but that's for state of Georgia. Oh, okay. Like Georgia Congress.
Right.
So maybe on a national level. Is he running for
I don't know.
Not Senate. I don't think he's running for Senate. I'm assuming it's for Congress on the other side. There's no way he's running for a Senate seat for the state of Minnesota. It's got to be a congressperson.
You know, this is 2026 and anything can happen. I want to ask you about something, because in this book, there was a time when Carl references a cast member on the show, but he doesn't say who it is. He doesn't give a name, and he does it like a couple of times. So first, he did it last week when we were discussing that he said there was a cast member who would drink with him, and they were kind of bad influences on each other. He's like, and we would like travel back to the city a lot and like get into some shenanigans, right? But then this week in the book, he mentions that, and I'm kind of jumping ahead and then we'll kind of backtrack, but he mentions that there's a Thanksgiving holiday and it's after his brother passed away, because this is the chunk of the book that we learn more about that. And he's basically on a downward spiral, but he says that he's having Thanksgiving with a cast member, or like, I guess a group of people too, but he doesn't say who it is. And he says he got so mad at them that he yelled at them. They were making a pot roast and he was like, F you. And he said there was no excuse for me doing that. But is it Lindsay?
Well, because he says he gets into this knockout fight. Well, not literally, figuratively. And he goes down 10 flights to his apartment. Yeah. We know that he and Lindsay lived in the same apartment which, you know, I was wondering about this question. I hadn't mentioned this to you, but did he intentionally, or did Lindsay intentionally want him to move to her building to keep an eye on him, knowing how bad he's using his gun? Because he says by season 4, it was horrendous. So the season before the COVID summer, that he was at his worst filming. And that is the time him and Lindsay kind of got to, I'm not even going to say the words because it's gross.
Thank you. Please don't, because I remember being scarred from when that happened on the show. And yeah, remember when they go on that date and it's like on the rooftop of their building.
Yes.
And it was so weird, and like he was so awkward, and it was weird, and he leaves, but then he came back. It was so it must have been.
And I wondered if she wanted or thought because he seems to be, by reading it, he was kind of aware that there was a problem, but not really aware. But like it just seemed that he just never stopped using. It was like the drinking, it was, and he said, and that was the one too, like another, we wondered if it was Lindsay that he got into the fight with. He said specifically, one of my cast members and I were evil influences on each other. We would drink in the car on the way to the Hamptons. We would drink on the drive home. We would stop for more drinks on the way back to the city. Who could he be talking about?
I know, because we had texted and we're like, is it Lindsay? You said, or is it Danielle? And I was like, is it Luke? Because remember, Carl was mad at Luke during that one series of events, and I didn't really, the golf. Yeah, was that the COVID season? The thing is, okay, I have to say this. I think I forgot, like, maybe it's because it's an ensemble show and it wasn't just, if it was just Carl, we were just watching Carl this whole time, but I literally don't remember Carl in most of these seasons. I remember Hannah, I remember Paige, I remember Kyle, because that was like a big thing, seasons 4 and 5. Carl, I'm like, what was he even doing?
He wasn't a part of the mix per se. So season 1 and 2, he was named because of the work as twins, and him and Lauren were getting together, not getting together. So we saw him a lot. After that, Paige came season 3, right? So make out in the pantry was Paige. That was about it. He talks about the season when Jules and Jordan were there, and he remembers getting so blackout and just going off on Jules saying, get out of the house. And he regrets doing that. So,
and I feel bad for Jules. Everyone was like really mean to her. But I guess back then, like when those shows were airing, this was kind of like par for the course. There was always someone who was on a season of a reality show that everyone was mean to and didn't like. So it wasn't like a big deal back then to have like a gang up. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, like, and she was a really sweet girl. Like she got a lot of, hate for nothing. And she absolutely did nothing to him, and he blew up at her because of his own stuff. And okay, so let's talk about we got to the chunk of the book where basically two really awful things happened to Carl. And one of them was actually shared without his consent as a storyline on the show. That was when he was essayed or in a situation that he did not consent to. And he had made a joke. He had opened up to Stephen McGee, who... You remember him from season 1 and 2?
Yeah.
If you watched, was he on? I don't think he was on. Was he on season 3?
No.
Okay.
He left with the Workus twins, and I don't know if that was his choice or he was asked not to come back. I'm guessing he was asked not to come back.
Right, and him and Carl used to get wasted, and Carl said he opened up to him one night, but he said he made a joke, and he said, best like experience he had, like sexual experience, right? He said he was making a joke, but then he got wind from Lauren that Steven, or that they were going to make this into a storyline. And he was understandably really upset. This isn't something he wanted anyone to know. He wasn't the one who went to production and was like, hey, you know what I want my storyline to be is people questioning my sexuality, because it was somebody who was his same sex, right? And so then he said he's battling, alcoholism, drug addiction. He even said he adds in like Adderall. So it's first drugs, Coca-Cola, and then he starts to do Adderall too. So it's like, it's compounding, everything's like, and then this happens. And it's almost like, how do you deal with something like this if it wasn't even on your own terms? Now you got social media, people speculating on his, sexual preference. And he also, this was like a really awful experience for him that he never even dealt with. So, watching that, I felt bad for him because I was like, oh, like he didn't want this guy to say this, but I didn't know it was an essay kind of situation either.
Yeah, and I don't think Carl did either. So Stephen McGee basically was, it kind of seemed like he was trying to out him or out the fact that he had an experience with a man. That's the perspective I saw of Stephen. Like, oh, let me throw this out there. Whereas Carl is blindsided because Carl says it was when he was in LA. He was probably like 22. He was in some sort of theater production. And so after a cast event or something, they're partying, he's drinking, he makes out with a girl. Well, the producer, who's an older man in his 40s, who always seemed to kind of flirt with Carl, suddenly was doing things to him and he wasn't even aware what was happening. And he just stopped it, put his clothes back on and left. So when he describes what happened, like that was an essay. Like, I don't think he realized it in the moment. It was just like, oh my God, what's happening? I drink too much. I'm getting out of here. So he tells Stephen McGee again in a joking manner. And as he explained in the book, it goes to show what he said. What was highlighted for him was the fact that when males go through an experience of an SA on reality TV, nobody gives them any, what's the word? Like any understanding or he says
any grace.
If it happened to a woman, they wouldn't be expected to explain themselves.
No.
If it happened to a woman, they wouldn't have to discuss it on camera. And he said that trauma, he didn't realize was a trauma. But then just like you said earlier, the fact that it was all played out on reality TV. And you know what it made me wonder? It reminded me actually of Jax. They hint to Jax when he lived in Florida and that older man, the model scout, the manager, like something happened. And Jax is really someone who's had to have experienced a lot of trauma, right?
Yes.
And his drug use. And it made me realize, again, if that were a woman and it was an older man, would they automatically just say like, oh, she was, whatever was happening? Like, it's a good point what Carl says.
Absolutely. And I felt like that was such a great point for him to include in this book, because it's true. We don't really talk about male essay much on these shows. We do talk about women essay quite a bit. And they are not asked about it. Like he said, first he had to live through that, talking about it with them in the actual scene. Then he has to live through it again when it airs. Then he's interviewed about it over and over and over again. So it's like opening up that wound every single time. And he doesn't have the tools to deal with it. I mean, not many people do. And he's dealing with, having this, he's kind of basically covering for everything by having, this addiction that he's like hiding, or at least he thinks he's hiding it. And so then it just ramps it up to another level because this is another trauma that he can't deal with, and he didn't even want it out there. This showed me, I know reality TV is like messy. You would never be able to do something like this to another cast member today. I remember when Steven did this, and it was like, I was like, oh, I see you
he's
for
nasty.
who you are. Yeah, I was like, oh, you're bad. Carl did say that Steven also was dealing with drug abuse and addiction, and that eventually Steven did get sober, reached out to him, apologized. It took Carl 2 more years after Steven's apology. Steven sent his apology in like 2021. Carl responded in 2023. He was finally able to be like, respond to that. But I'm just like, that was bad. That's one of those moments you can never forget. Like, I remember that like it was yesterday.
And again, and like going back to what Steven was going to, if I remember at that point, he was with someone whose family was in the political world and wasn't out and was in a relationship with someone. So he was dealing with his own struggles.
Yeah.
But going back to Carl, so at this point in the book, this is trauma number 2 for him.
Yes.
Because he also, the man he saw fall to his death off the balcony, but this essay had happened before that.
Yes.
So already, like, the alcoholic gene, the addictive gene, like, it's like it just unlocks it a little more.
Yeah.
A little more. And we hadn't even gotten to his brother and his parents' divorce, which it seemed that, and I hope I'm not going at a turn here, but his parents' divorce, it seemed like for him, he was just kind of taken aback. It seemed like his father was with another woman, but his father didn't say that and said, let's just separate for a little bit. Meanwhile, he already had another woman who then they ended up together. But for Carl, he didn't talk to his dad for, a couple of years?
Yeah, and he had lent his dad money. His dad had asked him for money so that he could move out of the family home and probably in with this woman. So I think that added, insult to injury for Carl, because now he's like, what? I loaned you money so you could leave my mom? Like, no, that's not okay.
So close to his mother. So either you give dad the money, you hurt mom, you help out dad, but then like, it's just a horrible situation. Either way, you're going to hurt someone. So, I mean, you watch this person, like any reality star, you watch them on TV, they're partying. You really don't know what demons and struggles. I mean, reading this book made that soft bar opening like 100 times more. Like, I was just more proud of him after everything we have read about him.
Yes, because like I was saying, this is an ensemble show. So we're not seeing that Carl is leaving the Hamptons, going to his apartment and just drinking and doing cocaine by himself. That's what he's doing for days, or like going to work, but really phoning it in, or actually using substances to get through work. And I was just like, oh my God, like I had no idea. And I think what really put it into perspective for me is they always talk about, if you have a problem with alcohol, they always said, if you are alone and you're doing this, like a lot of people go out to the bar and they're like, well, I drink when I'm with people. But if you're alone and you're just like drinking alone, doing drugs alone, that's when they say like, you really have a problem.
Yeah.
And right. And so that ended up happening all the time for him.
It was kind of like when he was alone, that's when the demons and the thoughts and the depressive episodes would come along, the trauma. Like, I would imagine the dreams that he was having of things that he experienced. So the more he could just drown out those emotions, it, takes it away. But I was wondering, around that time when his using was getting really bad, was he working for a dentist or something as a salesperson?
Oh, yeah.
He lost a job. We watched him lose a couple jobs. Kyle chooses to hire him. How much did Kyle know about his use before he hired Carl?
Good question, because, Carl really does paint Kyle in a good light in this book. Throughout the whole thing, Kyle is really, it's kind of like a second brother to him. And it kind of seems like Kyle understands, but also Kyle has said that he doesn't do drugs, that he doesn't partake in that. So I wonder if Kyle kind of turned a blind eye or didn't really see the signs of drug use because he wasn't using as well. So maybe, it's hard to say because remember, Kyle's the one that said Carl would show up to Loverboy meetings like, hi. And we learned firsthand that, he says he was doing that. And you know what? That was also like the perfect job. And another thing, this is.
Oh, I was thinking that too.
Right?
Go
on
with
this
point.
is the perfect job for this guy. He wants to party. It's an alcohol brand. But I also have to say this, and I know we're not Kyle apologists here, but Kyle has really, like when people are like, how dare Kyle say anything about him not having Loverboy at Soft Bar? People are like, Kyle should have given him the money. Listen, Kyle did so much for Carl, their whole relationship. Kyle's done enough, okay? Kyle has done enough. When Carl comes for Kyle in this next episode of Summer House, I'm like, well... Yes. Carl, think of all the things that Kyle has done for you. So much.
And also, this may be kind of horrible to say, but Kyle stood by him, gave him a job when he was at his lowest. This is someone that has used, that has gotten sober, that has used again. Now this guy has started a business. Do you find, and your own finances are rough, do you trust this person to put your money in? You're basically writing a check that you're not going to, you're not going to, that's what you're thinking. Like Lindsay, this is not going to work. What are you thinking? Kyle's a businessman. Is Carl, and the audience assumes he needs to just throw him a bone and write a philanthropy check of $5,000 to get him off. But he's already in a rough place that I don't he even told Carl, look, I'm not in a good place right now. I'll support you. I'll be a board member. I don't think Kyle owed him anything. And then people are mad that, remember Kyle was looking at the menu and said, he said he was going to get Loverboy. No. Okay. So my take on this is that is a soft opening. I doubt that was their real menu because even Bailey mentioned some drink and he goes, that's not on the menu yet. Okay. That was probably just a sample of choices. And why would you go and get your Loverboys to give out for free at your soft open when you're highlighting your juices?
No, totally. And that's a really good point. And, Kyle did end up posting something. I think we all saw it or if you haven't seen it, it's basically a love letter to Carl saying how proud he is of him. But think back. I just want to remind everyone, think back to a year ago when we were watching Summer House. Carl's talking about $10,000 a month for this soft bar, and the audience, the whole audience and Kyle, we were like, this is a bad idea, Carl. Don't do this. You're going to lose all that money. We're no, this is everyone was like, no one wants to go there. But it shows what good marketing can do and how to do something correctly, because the way that they have, I watched a TikTok and I think I sent it to you where this girl was like, the reason why Soft Bar is a success is because they have all these cool events happening. So they have a lineup of things that are happening here. They have that run club. They have cool guest DJs that could be Kyle, Maddie Reese from Southern Hospitality. There's the, I think I already said the running club, but the talks from Release Recovery with Carl, Jason from Laguna Beach, and the guy from The Bachelor who runs that program. It just seems like they got this dialed in. They're smart. Yes. They're they have... And everything I see when I go on their social media, I'm like, I want to go there.
And that's what people were saying, I'm going to spend that money on juice. Who's going to go there and spend that money for juice? And it's not for you. Yeah. Just like you said, he is building a location for the sober community. Yes. People who want to advocate for it. It's kind of like this. It's different. But if you look at Lisa Rinna promoting her book, she wanted to make it successful. She literally went podcast in it all day long. And she made it to the New York Times. Sheena did the same thing. You look at Dorit's not doing any of that. She can't get pre-sales on her book. It is more than just opening up a building and wanting people to come. He is building this huge network. I've noticed he's been doing podcasts and even TikToks with a lot of the sober influencers. That's how you go about it. And really what I wonder is you've got your investors there, make back your money, decide how much on top of you want to make back and walk out.
Yes.
right?
Totally.
This doesn't need to exist for, it's not going to. Restaurants and bars, how long of a shelf life do they even have?
Yeah, like 10 years maybe.
Yeah, max.
Yeah, if you can be successful, they say like most restaurants won't make a profit until year 5. So if you can get in there, make your profit from years like 5 to 10 and then call it or sell it or whatever. But no, I think that that's kind of really important to Carl, and he says it in the book, is that community, that sober community, that recovery community is so important, and they help each other. And so this is such a cool space. And even somebody who isn't like 100% sober, but who enjoys a drink from time to time, like I think it would be fun to go there and have a non-alc cocktail. Like I would pay the $25. I don't care. I think it's an experience. I think the space is really pretty. Well, Lindsay, that's what Lindsay said. She said, that was in her confessionals, like a little, snarky, who wants a $25 juice? That's what she said. Or like, you can go enjoy your $25 juices. But the thing is, like, you know what? The people that aren't drinking, they're not going to bars. It's like an experience to go there and have a $25 juice.
You know what I also wondered about him is because it seemed like every time a big trauma happened, it made his use worse.
Yes.
Trauma is going to happen in life. Things are going to happen. Should this not succeed, what happens?
Yeah.
He loses someone else in his life. What happened? Like, you hope he has the tools and the people he's surrounded by that he can manage it. I would assume he's in regular therapy. It didn't say that in the book, but I would
Well, is he, and that he's attending like the 12 steps. Like he has his sponsor and he talks about the sponsor. Let's talk about why he got into recovery. What finally was that breaking point for him? And that was finding out that his brother OD'd.
Yeah, and he was trying. It seemed like after season 4, he started taking Adderall because the alcohol buzz wasn't working. He just needed to function. And then about January or March 2020 is when COVID happened. And again, a friend has a home in the Hamptons. Come stay with me. Okay.
Lucky, another another lucky break for him, because he said he could not be alone in his apartment. He knows what would happen. So he goes to the Hamptons and he kind of lives like a different lifestyle for a while.
He does. Slower lifestyle. And he starts getting that sober curious, using less hard drugs, less alcohol. And then he had like an online therapist he was talking to, just kind of discovering this life. Then he goes into the summer house, and that just isn't the best place for him. No. But he was still trying to only drink Lover Boy. He thought he could do moderation. What was interesting? His therapist thought he could do moderation too. And I was really surprised by that.
Right?
I don't know. That really, I stopped there. Someone who was using hard, and I don't know enough about addiction and to say that, but that surprised me. So he goes into the summer house. He's trying to take it easy, not go hard. And then his brother passes away, and he hadn't been talking to his brother, right? There was something about him and his mom in a house.
Oh yes. So his mom was moving, and the brother wanted to buy the house from his mom. And I guess I'm dealing over here with California prices, but it sounded like it was going to be like $635 a month. It was something really affordable for a home. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like in today's standards, I was like, what? Yeah, let him do that. But the mom, Sharon, was like, I don't think it would be good for you. I think that she didn't want him to be in that house with everything that had happened in that home, that he had grown up there, that it might set him off, it might trigger him. And I guess he had been in and out of rehab by this point, right? Yeah. So he's struggled with addiction on and off. He's gotten clean, then not, and he fell off the wagon. I didn't even know that he had a family.
I know!
Because we never, the only way we even know about this guy is because Carl says my brother's an addict, right? So I'm thinking in my mind, he doesn't have kids, he doesn't have a wife. No, Same. He had a wife and kids, and so that made it even worse.
It made it so much worse. Right? You have a sister-in-law, you have nieces, nephews, whatever, and you are completely speaking ill of their father on national television.
Yeah, and basically also maybe the brother hadn't ever openly said, I have a problem. And
it sounds like it.
You're saying basically what Stephen McGee did to you, you did to your brother.
Yes.
You outed your brother as something, or you shared a story that you had no you weren't able to share that. You shouldn't have shared that. But he did. And because of that, him and his brother were really kind of, I think they had a shaky relationship their whole life, right? So then,
I can imagine they each resent each other.
Yes, I agree, right? Because Carl always wanted to be like the perfect son, right? Even though he was also using, and they were both kind of doing the same thing, just different lives, I guess. He finds out in the summer house, his mom calls him at 7 a.m. So I remember seeing this too. He said that they shut down production. But don't you remember he getting that call and then filming that?
I thought so too. Did he run to Lindsay's room, or I don't remember exactly. Kyle. Unless they filmed something again. I don't know. I thought so too. I thought we saw it.
I thought we saw it too. And maybe we saw it and then they shut down production. Maybe that was it. He said the cast really rallied around him. Nobody can say anything that's going to help, but he said that they each kind of did something that made him know that they were there. Well, Paige, she made sure he ate. And Luke, he said Luke was really like helpful because he had been through similar something.
Right. Someone else in his family, a loss.
Yeah. And he also mentioned Sierra and just, how they weren't really close before that, but that how she was really there for him. And he was like, she didn't say like, it's going to be okay, but she was just there. And I just, Sierra is such a great human.
She is. She's a nurse, and that is the right field for her because she can nurture and take care of people, but then they walk all over her. But not Carl. No. I feel like Carl has always shown his appreciation to her and just a platonic friendship. Yeah. Just respects her in a way.
Carl would like it to be more, and he's tried. They were like, keep trying, Carl. No, Carl, just be friends with her. Yeah. So after that, he leaves. They shut down production. He leaves. He drives to Pittsburgh, which surprised me because it's like a 10-hour drive or something. He said it was a long drive. And so I'm like, was he sober driving or was he using driving?
Well, and it's like it said in the book, like they would drive on the way out and the way back. Like, is there a different driver? And I wondered about that as well. And also, I don't know, you find out something like that happens. Your brother passes away of an overdose and he had just been out of rehab. You can go either way, right? Like, I am done. I'm not touching anything. Life isn't too important. Or I can't handle this. I can't cope. And you go the other way, which is it was sad to read because Carl had been kind of realizing I need to work on my use. I'm using too much. And then his brother passes away and it was just the worst. I mean, his use was more than he had ever done before.
Right. It ramped up like 1,000%. Right. And that's when he starts sharing, I'm using alone like all the time. Yeah. I'd rather be alone. People ask me to hang out. I'm like, oh no, I'm just going to chill tonight. But chill meant like I'm ordering a bottle. I'm ordering a bag of Coca-Cola. And he would say he would like watch TV or like listen to music. And I was like, wow, I was like, this wasn't like boring. And then he said that he would call people at 2 or 3 in the morning, 3 or 4 crying, like call his dad, he called his mom. He said anyone who would talk. And he said he would ghost everyone who like texted him and wanted to like check on him because people knew that he was going through a hard time. And he said, but then at 3, 4 in the morning, he'd be calling everyone.
Can you imagine his parents? You just lost your son to an overdose and your other son is calling you in the middle. Like, I just don't know. Like, everyone makes fun of Sharon, but what she has gone through in life with both sons struggling, and you just want to fix your child and you cannot fix them.
Yeah. I know. This was definitely like this is how I relate it. I'm like, in a screenplay, there's a moment that's called Dark Night of the Soul, when that's in all of the movies where like, the worst thing happens in the movie and the main character is like, what do I do? And it's like the worst time. This is what I think is like his Dark Night of the Soul, right? He's dealing with this, but he doesn't have the tools. Again, he is always talking about this. He's like, I don't have the tools to deal with this. It is really interesting that this guy does have great luck, but then he also has really awful traumas that happen to him.
Yeah.
Every time he's about to like, you know, it's like, okay, maybe he'll be sober now. And then it's like, boom, like,
Something
nope.
else.
Yeah.
And in this rock bottom, he says it was January 6th, 2021. Yes. So which is interesting how it's pinpoint to that day when we saw everything that happened in the White House. Yeah. And it just fueled him and enraged him. And he just started using. And he had to be at work the next morning, right? And it was Kyle and another Loverboy partner that he was calling and said, like, I can't make it. And it seemed like it was those two. If I'm wrong, I don't know if it was Kyle too. Was it Nick was the other guy?
Nick.
That did the intervention January 7th and he has not used since that day. Yes. So Kyle was a part of the reason why he fully stopped using.
I know. See, this is another thing I'm like, this is why Kyle has just done so much for you, because Kyle was there when you needed him the most. Yeah, like you said, it was January 6th and he decided, like, everything was so crazy and it was like so chaotic. He was like so upset about it that he was like, F it, basically. He orders a bottle again. I guess you get this stuff delivered to your apartment.
I was like, we have DoorDash.
I know.
He said delivery.
Yeah, he said it's faster than ordering a pizza. I was like, what? This is wild to people who aren't exposed to that kind of a thing. And so he said he ordered like a way bigger quantity than he had ever ordered before. And that he, you know, I think this was like one of those times where he maybe didn't really want to live.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Kyle and Nick picked up on that, and Kyle showed up and he told him, you can't do this. You're going to kill yourself. And that really like hit home for Carl. Yeah, see, look, Kyle like saved your life.
Kyle's not a perfect, what's the word? Our perfect hero.
No.
Right? He has done a lot. He takes care of people. He can be kind, but he has made some mistakes. And it's really in his relationship. Yeah. Because he wasn't in a good relationship. Like, not to shift to Kyle, but I do wonder with him being single, and if he gets with the right woman, he's a different person with them. And he has children too. And he moves on. Because he seems like he'd be a great father. He's a nurturer.
Yes.
But him and Amanda weren't.
Like, I know... This is going to sound really bad, and I guess I'm only saying this now because Amanda and Wes, because I wouldn't have said this about her before, but does Kyle need like a strong woman who's going to hold him accountable and be like, no, I'm not going to let you do this to me? Where Amanda said she would be like, Kyle, right? But she never was like, no, if you do that, then we're done. There was never like an ultimatum. Not saying people that ultimatums are good, but I'm just saying, like, I wonder how Kyle would be with somebody who is just like, no, won't put up with that.
Or maybe he's someone that doesn't settle down. I think he needs like a year or so to just not be in a monogamous relationship.
Totally.
Do what you want. Get it all out of your system. I think he needs to get to the point where I don't want to DJ. I don't want to party. I kind of want to have children and settle down and make that decision. Or it's, you know what, I'm realizing that having children and being a father is really not for me. Let me just be a great uncle.
Yeah.
And it works that way. But him and Amanda just were never supposed to be together.
No, definitely. They're like oil and water.
Oil and water, like Portia says.
I was almost going to say oil and vinegar, and I was like, no, those go together. Oh, no, that's what I meant.
Oil and vinegar. Yes, like Portia said that.
But oil and vinegar go together, but oil and water don't.
Yes. Yes, it's salad dressing.
Exactly right. I'm like, wait, oil and vinegar, that's the good one. So they're not that. They're not that.
No.
This is kind of where, this is the break. And I was actually really happy we got to this point in the book, because it was kind of hard reading this. It's kind of sad reading what Carl had been through. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh gosh, when's the light at the end of the tunnel for this poor guy? Because this is a lot. And I was thinking about his body too, because I was like, this is a lot for somebody to continue to do to their body, and to take that and just, you know, keep going and amping it up. So finally, now he's in his recovery. He meets a great sponsor. I think this guy changed his life, gave him a plan of action to be sober, and was successful. So Carl was able to see, look, there are successful people who are also sober, which maybe he had never met before, right?
Yeah.
He had only met like successful guys who were like doing a bunch of substances. So this is where he starts his road to recovery, and it's really great.
But do you remember it was when him and Lindsay were together and she outs the fact that he smokes weed or uses edibles? What do you think? Where does that play in with addiction?
Well, what I recall on that is that they did I don't know. I'm unsure about that because I know that she also said that they did mushrooms. They had like a mushroom trip together.
I remember that.
So I think it was that reunion because I was also wondering when Lindsay was like, well, he's not sober. Remember doing that?
And I get that from her standpoint. Like he's right. Mr. Perfect Carl.
Yeah. And
the resentment.
He's not
I get it.
So, I know there is that California sober, right? Where people are using weed.
Is that really though? Like you're in California. So is that really considered? Like I know maybe it's like, I understand the weed is maybe prescribed or small doses for anxiety, but maybe with a prescription or with a doctor, but the mushroom.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with someone who's sober and he is completely sober. Like there is nothing. And so that is what I classify as sober. I know there's a lot of California sober people also, but the thing is, I know every addict except for my boyfriend, whenever they brought something back in, I'm just going to have a drink. I'm just going to have a little bit of this. They always ended up back using again, which I don't know if that's for everyone. So I'm not going to try to be like, that's all of them. But all of the ones that I've known who have tried to add in a little weed, a little beer, a little whatever. It never worked out well. Yeah.
But Lala is nothing at all. Right. Like she's even stopped vaping. She was absolutely nothing. I just assumed that exactly what you say, it becomes a gateway.
And so, they did share that he had done shrooms. Lindsay and him had done shrooms together. And that wasn't a good experience. And I'm just reading what he's done. Yeah. I just think nothing for him.
No, I agree. And he's hardcore running. So I do wonder, they say that addictive gene, you get that runner's high. If maybe that's helping him through his recovery, the running. I've seen people.
Yeah, absolutely. You switch one addiction to another, right? I mean, and fitness is healthier. So that's good. Yeah, you see that a lot too with, addicts, which... he just ran the London Marathon, so way to go.
He had a great time. I want to say someone was kind of making fun of his New York City Marathon time on Threads, and I commented. Really? And I commented to this person because it was he had run it in a 3:40 or something, and Carl had a 4:30 or something like that. And I had to respond because I ran marathons when I was in my 20s. Yes. And I'm and so I commented and I said, "Look, honey, when we were in our 20s, this guy was in his 20s. When I was in my 20s, my marathon time was amazing, sub 4. I'm now in my mid 40s. Let me tell you, I'll be happy with an 11-minute mile pace. Life has changed. The body cannot run the way, and he was really nice about it though. The guy wasn't rude. So the fact that Carl had a 4:03 marathon in London, that, he said he was going for a sub 4, but that is an amazing time. Amazing.
Well, and I read that, and I don't know what that means, a sub 4, but I was
under 4 hours.
Okay, I was Carl, he's I wish that it was just a few minutes. My goal was a few minutes below this, and I'm dude, that is incredible. I
think it's 9-minute miles. I'm probably so long, but at least 9-minute miles for the full 26. Yeah, it's a really good time.
That's incredible.
It's really good. And for 43 or 44, let me tell you, at this age, I've got arthritis. I ran it at 26. I had a 3:45.
Wow.
Now, that was a long time. But now my joints, my ankles, my hips, my sciatica. So the fact that Carl in his 40s could run this, my body has taken so much pounding from running that I do a jog walk now.
Yeah.
Happy with my jog walk.
I love that. So. But I think that now we're going to segue into I think we're going to have to talk about Lindsay in the last part of the book.
Because I remember Sheena explaining this on her podcast, that it depends who's in your book, because she had a lot of celebrities and that they technically didn't have to sign off because their name is already in the public eye. But Carla has chosen not to use her name in this book. It's only Kyle. We haven't gotten Danielle either in this book at all. So I assume that reading the end, like, I don't think he's going to mention her name. I don't know if he'll say a cast member, if he'll say a woman, because when was this book written? Like, surely it was written after, I'm going to look at the year, after him and Lindsay broke up. So it is 2025. So it came out last year. Then, Lindsay, did they break up in 24?
Yeah,
summer of 24,
so.
summer of 20,
or
summer
23.
25. No, when did they break up? She had Gemma.
Gemma's like a
Gemma
year
was
now.
a baby this last summer.
Yeah.
So 2024, she was pregnant.
Okay, so 2020. Oh,
3. Yeah, you're right.
4.
Yeah, so then it has to be in here. They must talk about that relationship.
And he just says, I was in a high profile relationship and here's what happened on my side.
So.
Because he has to talk about that. And also another thing, if Lindsay is the one that he's been talking about that was a bad influence together, them drinking, she helped him when he first decided to become sober. Remember, he said, I need help. And she said, I'll be sober with you.
Yes.
Right? And then she decides later, like, well, you could be sober. I don't need to be sober. I'm not the one who's an addict. I think that he thinks that she has an issue with alcohol. Not that she's an addict, but
Genevieve, yeah.
But that, like, you know how you, like, there's people that are addicts and then there's people that, like, maybe they're not an addict, but it's just like they drink too much, some bad stuff happens, or like, I don't know, they always have to drink a little more or whatever. I think he thinks that she really shouldn't drink alcohol.
Yeah, because that season where they were engaged and they just fought, every time they fought, it was Lindsay was drinking and Lindsay would go drink to not deal with the arguing.
Yes.
You're right. I think that her being sober helped him stay sober and helped him get through it. You're right. And when she started using, she doesn't casually use. When she was in the Hamptons, it was let's use to have a good time.
Exactly. She's not just like having like one glass of wine. She's like, yeah, let's. And I think maybe that was triggering to him because it reminded him of how he was, right? And he was like, oh, and we used to drink a lot together and do other stuff, I'm sure. And so I think that was also something where he was like, wait a second, I can't marry this person. They have some issues that, like, I'm just trying to deal with my issues. And it is really interesting now to see their two paths because on social media, he's soft bar, he's sober, he's in recovery. It's all like really wonderful. Lindsay is like having a time. She was just at Stagecoach. She's like doing shots like in the videos. You know what I mean? So she is like full blown. But
she wanted to be a mom. Yeah. She wanted to settle down. Maybe this is the best of both worlds, being co-parenting, because every other week you can have your fun. But I feel like she still wants a partner.
I think so too. And I think that it's not Carl. And it's not somebody who's in recovery. It's somebody who wants to have a good time. Go have let's go have an old fashioned at this cool bar. Like something.
But from watching her, like, remember Stravy? I feel like Stravy is kind of what she needs. But the problem is, like, watching with Stravy, she says that I choose men that lead me. But the way she treats men, like, you get older in life and you start learning what battles are really worth it.
Yeah.
If someone didn't make you a sandwich, is it worth it to go all? I mean, I'm sure there was more meaning behind it. You know what I mean? I feel like part of what Lindsay has to learn is how to work in a relationship and how to treat people. Maybe every single person she's been with deserves these like screaming fests, but how do you have any relationship when all you do is scream every time? Like, anybody is going to leave.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be able.
No, I know, right? And like, that's why she's great TV, because you're like, oh yes, okay. But also it's like, you have to be willing to compromise in a relationship.
That's the thing.
And not lose your cool every time it like doesn't go your way. That guy Stravy, he really bothered me. And so I hated him. I couldn't stand him. I just
was nothing.
Yeah. So I was like, why is she even wasting her time with this guy? He is not confident enough for her. Like, this is not the guy.
because a confident guy is going to come back at her like Carl. Oh, even Carl was kind of soft with his hugs. I saw that scene recently. I'm like, ooh, I'm embarrassed for you. I need a hug. And I feel like as women, the older we get and perimenopause and the hormones change, like, I don't have hugs to give, dude. Like, like stop. Don't touch me.
You want to ask me for a hug? That's the worst thing. If you want a hug, don't ever ask for it. I will not. Like, I'm a black cat. Okay, I come to you in my own time. Can't handle a golden retriever.
I feel like I get older and I get colder.
Yeah, same. And you know what? I'm happy about it. So I'm like, I love it. I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, I think we're kind of covered everything. We will be back next week for the final section, which we'll hope we hear about Lindsay in it more. We are going to be back again tomorrow discussing Summer House, discussing Beverly Hills, discussing Rhode Island. So much stuff to discuss with you tomorrow. You wanted to say anything else about this before we
just
close it
one
out?
Short little thing, and then we'll end it. Was it on Watch What Happens Live when Bailey said she has been sober for a couple weeks? I heard that somewhere, and I thought maybe Watch What Happens Live.
I didn't catch that. Yeah, and they're really... Do we believe, this is another question, I guess this is a good question for tomorrow. Do you think this Bailey-Carl relationship storyline is real or just something that the producers wanted?
I think producers want it. I think they're great on paper, but they just don't romantically click.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I'm like, all right. Like the Crappens guys were like, you can tell Bailey's like, okay, I'll go along with this. But like, I don't really, not really into him. Like, aw, okay.
He's a good friend because she speaks highly of him. But yeah.
Well, thank you for being here and join us. Join us for the Bravo Rundown. This is the Bravo Book Club. And we'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.